conduct our meeting tonight and do the business of the good people of St. Tammany Parish. Let all who speak here tonight be guided by you. May all of us who have the honor and privilege of serving on this body be salt and light in our communities, and may we always strive for what is good and fair and right and just. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Ford, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dean? Here. Mr. Sharp? Here. Mr. Thompson? Here. Mr. Faulkner? Mr. Gould? Mr. Tanner? Here. Mr. Bender?
Here.
Mr. Groby? Here. Mr. Canulet? Here. Mr. Belisario?
Here.
Ms. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Stavancic?
Here.
Mr. Artigue? Mr. Smith? You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we have our first presentation by Pride, Parent Resources for Information, Development, and Education. We have our board member, Dina Lopez, to introduce and convey Pride's organizational mission. And this is sponsored by Mr. Artigue.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Dina.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing this item to be recognized on your council agenda this evening. I stand before you tonight in a different capacity, not as your employee, but instead as a mom with a message. I am here to recognize a group of youth and share with you how I became affiliated with their organization called Pride. Pride stands for Parental Resources for Information, Development, and Education. Pride provides leadership training, education, and prevention programs designed to reduce the use of alcohol and drug use by our youth. These students commit to living a drug and alcohol-free life throughout their high school years and welcome their peers to join their crusade. They actually sign a contract. With today's peer groups, television shows, music, and movies, we all get an overload of exposure to alcohol and drug use portrayed as casual and acceptable recreational use. Our children have heard the phrase, "just say no," but rarely do they hear about the testimonials and the consequences of why to say no. Pride reached out to our family and asked if we would be willing to speak at a local youth group here facilitating a camp in Mandeville. Pride sponsors this camp. I wasn't exactly sure what the organization thought that I could bring to the table and how I could impact these children, for I personally could not speak of drug use, drug effects, addiction, or even recovery. But instead, they gently asked if we could simply share our family's story of loss, the devastating loss of our daughter Megan Lopez on April 3rd of this year. We lost our child to tragedy, leaving behind enormous grief and sorrow. Meg was our young, vibrant daughter and a dear friend to so many. She was in Girl Scouts as a child, an honor graduate of Covington High School, a college student of SLU and Loyola, a Camp Abbey counselor growing up. She also attended Church of the King youth group during high school, and she was employed during high school as a 21st century camp counselor where she mentored the children. She currently had 2 jobs and also loved to travel, for by age 18, she had already toured Europe twice. In January, she phoned and asked if I could meet her at the bookstore. There, she shared with me her goals, re-enrolling in school, reconnecting with family, and then, of course, asked for a brand new Mac computer. She was happy and she was focused. Just 90 days later, we received a call from SLU Campus Police. Not the call you expect. 6 months ago today, we lost our 21-year-old daughter to an incident that involved drugs. My message tonight is to our youth and to tell the truth. During Easter week, Megan had some free time and called into work for an extra shift. They had none available. She then reached out to friends, asking if anybody had any fun planned for the holiday week. She received an invite by a college friend to attend a picnic. His text said that he had an awesome new synthetic drug. He had previously tried it. It was great, and it was fun, and it was safe. Her text reply to him was, "I am nervous." She still chose to go that sunny afternoon. This drug's name was Cboom, the letter C-B-O-O-M. It was new on the market, as so many of them are. Within a short time, the drug began its vicious attack, and Megan began to exhibit side effects that our children need to know about. They would ultimately claim her life the following morning. It was certainly not a bunch of euphoric moments for Megan. It's not a bunch of elevated sensations, as our youth hear about. Instead, you get trapped in a horrible experience that there is no turning back. She struggled out there that Sunday afternoon at a picnic listening to music. For her, the sounds of music stopped and were replaced by emergency sirens. The sun set as she began to struggle for her life. Her heart went into arrhythmia. She began to have seizures and was later placed on a ventilator. Irreversible brain damage had robbed us all from our last moments with Megan. She had endured too much, and it was impossible to prevail. There would be no more music-filled sunny days. A young girl who still had so much life ahead of her. That day this past April was a mere moment in time that certainly did not define her. However, it unfortunately defeated her. This tragedy could have been avoided by making a better choice. It only takes one moment to be impacted for a lifetime, one poor choice, likely based on the number one reason conveyed by teenagers today on why they try drugs, and that word would be curiosity. We must trump the curiosity with the carelessness involved in the risks that they take. Today, trying the newest marketable drug is truly easy. It's easily obtainable, it's affordable, yet it's laced with deadly compounds. What can you do to help? Please encourage and support our local education programs like Pride that are here tonight that steer our youth in the right direction early on so that they may have a solid foundation of knowledge before taking any life-threatening chances. Tell them our story. Start the conversation with this testimonial. The truth about the reactions that you incur. Don't shield them from the consequences. We present several awards at the podium each month. Tonight, I would like to acknowledge a youth group who has committed to remain alcohol and drug-free for the duration of their high school years. These students belong to Pride, and I stand before you supporting this group and what they represent. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the people who helped make this organization possible. Our board of directors, please stand if anybody's here from the board of directors. Okay. We have 13 members, and I'm going to turn the mic over to our executive director, Miss Wendy Ruby.
Thank you for sharing your story. Good evening, and thank you for having us. I am the new executive director of Pride. Excuse my casualness tonight, but my son's birthday is tonight. Go Dogs, playing. Just had to put that in there. But on a more serious note, we are an organization, a nonprofit organization, that work together with the community to educate students and families of the dangers of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Through this, we are having we have a program called Life Skills. We will touch 3,000 plus students in St. Tammany Parish with this program, Life Skills. It is an evidence-based program that is taught we're going to teach it 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th graders. Our target population is the 6th graders, believe it or not, because that's when we have the most impact and we can make a difference. So this program, the students, we have facilitators that go into the classroom and teach these kids on their level things they can do to make positive decisions, positive choices in their lives. We also have a program called Second Chance. Our Second Chance program allows students who have made a mistake and been caught with some type of substance on campus or at a school event. They go through a 6-week program with their parents. You have to go through with your parents. And after the 6 weeks program, they're allowed to remain in school. So it gives them a second chance for making that one mistake. And it educates them on the dangers of drugs and alcohol. We also have PA Camp, which is Positive Attitude and Positive Action Camps, which take place in the summer, which is a leadership camp. And Mr. Polito will be speaking to you about that. This month, in addition to being Breast Cancer Awareness, and I must say I like all you Southern gentlemen in your pink boas and pink ties, we have Red Ribbon Week. It'll be October 28th through the 31st, and we will distribute over 20,000 wristbands that say a healthy me is drug-free. These wristbands will go out from preschool through high school, and the children will be asked to wear them for the week. So we are getting our mission accomplished. We are getting our message out there, but we are a nonprofit, and we need the support of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks again for having us. I'm Jeff Polito, and I'm the youth director for Pride. I'm a theater teacher at Fontainebleau High during the day, and I've been working in St. Tammany Parish schools since 2000. About 10 years ago, I was given an incredible opportunity by a friend to start working in the summer with PA Camp. And 10 years later, I'm still here. And I'm now the youth director, and I'm running the camps in the summer. And there's 3 really important reasons why I still work for Pride after all this time, because it is a big commitment outside of my day job. And the 3 reasons are my 3 sons. When I started working with Pride, my oldest boy, he was little. And I was blown away by the kids that I met at that camp. Their passion for their mission, the friendships and the closeness. And I recall thinking, I didn't have those kinds of friendships when I was in high school. And I thought, and I looked at my little boy and I thought, I want this to be something that he gets to participate in. And this summer, that happened. He finally got old enough to attend his first PA camp. PA, again, as Ms. Wendy mentioned, it's a leadership-based camp. We're teaching kids how to be leaders in their community, how to stand up and be confident in themselves and be strong. And part of that is, again, addressing some of the most challenging things that kids are going through in junior high and high school, and that is the decision to drink or not to drink. I can't say that I have a whole lot of statistics I can provide you. I don't necessarily make that part of my thought process. I just go out every day and I try and affect as many lives as I can. But I can tell you, if this helps, I got a phone call not too long ago from one of our former, alumni kids, and this is not an uncommon story. And he called me and he said, I'm turning 21, and I'm not quite sure what my next move is. And I said, well, Pride's not a prohibition organization, man. You're 21. You get to do what you want. I said, but let me know how it works out. And he called me again about a week later, and I said, well, how'd it go? He said, well, my mom and dad took me to the casino, and I shared my first beer with my dad. That's a good story. That's what we're looking for our kids, and I think that's what, certainly what my mission is. The kids that get to come to PA camp, they get to come to camp, and then if they enjoy it and they have a good time, we offer them an opportunity to stick with it throughout the whole year, and that's the Pride Troop, and that's the kids you see back there wearing the shirts. and unfortunately, we couldn't fit more than what we invited in the building, but there's a good 75 kids that are in that group right now. 75 kids from across St. Tammany Parish. Every high school in the parish is represented by at least a couple of kids that show up for meetings twice a month. They do social events, they do community service events, and they do performances. Sure, I imagine some of you may have heard, Pride's been doing this for 30 years. That camp's been happening for 30 years, and we've been performing at the public schools for most of those years. And we take a performance around and we try and spread that message. So the kids that you see behind me right now, are representatives of what this whole Pride thing is all about for me. So I just want to take this quick opportunity then to present a certificate of recognition from St. Tammany Parish government. It says, "We take pride in acknowledging our younger generations for their dedication, achievements, and active pursuit of leadership roles. We recognize the Pride troop leaders." We have a whole bunch of kids, and we've got a group of kids that are on our leadership team. There's 2 kids in particular that have been elected to the position of troop leader for their commitment to Pride, their peers, their school, community, society, and self, and we look forward to how your insights and commitments can contribute to the future. This certificate of recognition was unanimously approved by the Parish Council on October 3rd, 2013. So Casey Johnson and Rachel Higgins, would you please come and accept these? Thanks again for having us out here.
Thank you. The summer camp is absolutely incredible, and it's offered right here in St. Tammany Parish. The camp flyers are available in the tables, on the tables in the lobby. I want to tell you that Chief Randy Smith was invited here tonight. However, I do believe that he's probably tied up with some emergency preparation this evening. So I wanted to let you know that our family does not stand alone, for there are many families affected by similar tragedy and loss. I want to extend a sincere acknowledgement to some members in our audience tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Larry and Terry Ryan. They are both residents of Slidell as well, who also recently lost their young child to drugs in July, their 23-year-old son, Kevin. This is happening right here in your communities, in your schools, and in your backyards of St. Tammany Parish. Please help us on our crusade for awareness. Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me?
The proclamation, I didn't know if you wanted me just to read it from here.
For Pride? Please. No, please. No, go ahead.
Because they've
Go ahead,
done
Ms.
such
Pat.
a wonderful job of explaining what it is. It would be an honor for me to read it. Whereas living in alcohol and drug-free youth is a vital lifestyle choice, and whereas Pride Youth and Community Resources is an organization that promotes healthy, productive lifestyle choices, empowering youth and adults to better their communities, we achieve this through advocacy, outreach, leadership, and training on local, state, and national levels. Whereas public awareness of national and local programs that promote and encourage our youth to engage in healthy, drug-free living through awareness and education is vital. Whereas Pride sponsors Red Ribbon Week and encourages the community to show their support to our local troop members by displaying red ribbons in your neighborhoods and businesses during the last week of October. Now therefore, I, Patricia Brister, as Parish President of St. Tammany, do hereby proclaim the week of October 23rd through November 1st, 2013, as Red Ribbon Week in St. Tammany Parish, and encourage all citizens, parents, and children to join me in this worthy observance. And it's signed by me. Thank you all very much for all you do.
They all have red ribbons for you guys, so we're going to hand those out. If you'll please wrap your trees the last week of October to show your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all you do.
You can- Just want to thank the Pride Board and the young people from Pride. And just want to say to Dina, who every day of the week is our Assistant Council Administrator, we've gone through the downs and the ups, and Dina, tonight, I know all of us on the Parish Council are so very proud of you for trying to educate young people and show them a better way. And you are to be wholeheartedly commended, and I think we should all stand. Okay, item 3 is certificate of recognition to the St. Tammany Parish Home Builders Association for donations to local charities, and this will be presented by Ms. O'Brien and Mr. Belisario.
We'd like to ask the members of the HBA to come up, please. Before we present the award, we'd like to tell you a little about this organization. The St. Tammany Parish Home Builders Association was founded in 1977 and currently incorporates 614 members and businesses. 1/3 of these members are builders. The remainder 2/3 are professionals directly connected with the home building industry. Now, years ago, their board of directors of the St. Tammany Home Builders Association decided they wanted to give back to the community that provided them with their livelihood. From that idea, the Raising the Roof for Charity raffle was born. Now, they've donated an astounding, and I want you to hear this correctly, $4.7 million to 36 local North Shore charities. Almost every year since then, members of the St. Tammany Home Builders Association pooled their time and talents to build a home of exceptional quality. This year is going to top last year's donations of over $260,000. Now, because of the success of the Raffle House in 1999, they wanted a way to help smaller charities throughout the year. Thus, the St. Tammany Home Builders Association Charitable Trust was established. And to date, the trust has also given away over $410,000 to numerous local groups. So, tonight, St. Tammany Parish government would like to recognize the St. Tammany Home Builders Association for its continued fundraising efforts and ongoing contributions to local charitable organizations. The organization's commitment and dedication to this community is greatly appreciated by all the citizens of St. Tammany Parish, and I just don't know how we can thank you guys enough.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, President Brister. And though the Raffle House is our big annual, the thing we love the most, the thing we're most passionate about, we do many other things, and this is some of our board and volunteers, and of course, we're all volunteers. Other than our executive officer, and she does a wonderful job, Farrah Tingle, behind me. So we do appreciate this so much. Thank you.
Everyone, just briefly, the Good Samaritans ministry that I've been involved with has been a participant in the Raising the Roof raffle. We were successful to be selected 4 times. The last 3 years, they have done a lot to help our church to take care of the needy people in eastern Slidell.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is presentation by Hillary Collis regarding the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana's Marsh Grass Replanting Project, sponsored by Mr. Grovey.
Well, first I wanted to thank everyone here today for letting me take a few minutes and highlight some conservation work that my office will be leading here in St. Tammany over the next few months. Again, my name is Hillary Collis. I'm the Restoration Program Director for a group called the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana. Overall, the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana is a nonprofit that for over 25 years has pursued our mission, which is protecting and restoring a sustainable coastal Louisiana. Recent hurricanes and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill have continued to highlight the importance that our coast plays in both our environment and the economy of this state. Overall, the coalition brings together a diverse group of stakeholders interested in restoring the coast. We also work with state, federal, and local governments to help promote coastal restoration, and we host periodic workshops and conferences that bring together scientists, engineers, and those interested in moving forward at a large-scale level. But what I'm here to talk to you about is another program of ours, which is called our Community-Based Restoration Program. It's what I manage. This program focuses on restoring wetlands across our coast by engaging volunteers and stakeholders in the fight to protect coastal Louisiana. Over the last 12 years, this community-based restoration program has worked to recruit 9,000 volunteers, and we've restored approximately 3,700 acres at sites located all across our coast. As it specifically relates to the North Shore, we've been out here a good bit since 2010, both focusing on coastal forest restoration as well as marsh grass planting and marsh restoration along the shoreline of the lake. Since 2010, we have worked with over 130 volunteers to plant 1,700 trees in the region. We've also spent a good bit of time at Big Branch National Wildlife Refuge, where we have worked with over 650 volunteers to plant over 110,000 marsh plants and help restore 45 acres. And we're not done yet. So coming up, we're going to continue our cypress planting work. I was actually just out with some St. Tammany Parish employees earlier today highlighting our next sites. We will be planting in both Mandeville and Lacombe in November and December. And what we're doing is the parish is building a series of retention ponds throughout the parish. And now CRCL and St. Tammany Parish employees are coming in to plant trees to take these retention ponds and help kind of turn them into a natural space. They'll also help improve water quality as well as create wildlife habitat. But our next big project is also, we're returning to Big Branch National Wildlife Refuge next month from October 16th through the 19th, where we're currently recruiting volunteers to help plant 25,000 plugs of marsh grass along 15 acres within the refuge. For all of our volunteer projects, we encourage volunteers to go to our website and register and get involved. And kind of as pictures can tell the effects of our work better than I can. This is an example of what Big Branch Wildlife Refuge looked like in 2010. And then following our large marsh grass planting, that's what it looked like in 2013. So we're hoping to replicate these results with our project next month. And again, if anyone is interested, please go to our website, crcl.org, to register. I also brought a few flyers today that I will leave at the table outside in the lobby, as well as some business cards. But mostly, so I just wanted to highlight the work we're doing in your parish, and thank you for any continued support, or any support, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like
Yes, ma'am.
to thank them also, because they have been a tremendous help in our new detention ponds, and they look wonderful.
Thank
You've done a
you.
great job. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
we'll
Thank
keep
you.
planting them as long as we can find the trees, so.
Thank
Ms.
you so
Corliss.
much.
Ms. Corliss,
Excuse me, Mr. Groby.
I'm sorry. I want to also thank you. Your group also is helping St. Bernard as well as St. Tammany and Lacombe. It is an incredible project. It's the only thing that'll work. If there's one community project that the community, you can spend one day helping them, this is the one, trust me. This is going to be here for your grandkids and your kids to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 5 on the presentations is a presentation by Coast regarding short and long-range plans to manage its facilities. And what I'd like to do is move this presentation down to a combined presentation along with resolution number 1, which also regards the St. Tammany Council on Aging. So, got a motion by Mr. Canulette, seconded by Mr. Groby. Please vote.
Mr. Thompson? Mr. Bender?
Yes.
Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
Okay, moving on to item 6 under presentations, proclamation declaring Friday, November 15th, Black and Gold Day to benefit the Children's Museum of St. Tammany. Madam President.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas on Thursday, October 3rd, 2013, the St. Tammany Parish Council declares Friday, November 15th, 2013 as Black and Gold Day, and whereas St. Tammany Parish Public School System will allow all students to wear black and gold for a donation of $1 or more, which will be donated for the construction of the Children's Museum of St. Tammany. And whereas we encourage all businesses in St. Tammany Parish to allow their employees to wear black and gold in exchange for a donation of $1 or more, which will also be donated for the construction of the Children's Museum of St. Tammany. And whereas Children's Museum of St. Tammany will be part of the parish's cultural art district, which will be located on a 75-acre tract in Covington, west of the Tchefuncte River. And whereas children 2 to 12 will not be just educated or entertained, but will have their curiosity, creativity, and imagination awakened. They'll discover new ways to think. They'll be encouraged to question, deduct, debate, and explore. Now therefore, I, Patricia Brister, as President of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby proclaim November 15th, 2013 as Black and Gold Day, and citizens of St. Tammany Parish are urged to support the Children's Museum of St. Tammany fundraiser. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. These people coming up?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you. I apologize, no problem. I just wanted to make sure you knew that we were here. We're very excited about this day. No, it's fine.
Yes.
I'm on the Board of Trustees for the Children's Museum of St. Tammany, and I also have with me another board member, as well as 2 volunteers for the Children's Museum of St. Tammany Black and Gold Day. What we love so much about this particular day, and we want to thank Pat Pfister so much for allowing this to happen again, is that we feel like the children of this parish will all be able to say, I helped build that museum once it is constructed. And so that's the most exciting thing for us, because every child is participating. Even though they just give us $1, it's their way of saying, I'm part of this, and once they actually see it go up. And of course, we are thrilled to be part of the new Cultural Arts District and very excited about that as well. Would you mind if we take a picture? Is that okay? Thank you. That's okay.
Ma'am, could I get your name, please, for the record?
Sorry. My name is Ann Barre.
Ann Barre.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, and can I tell you, Ann has worked and worked and worked on this project particularly, and has done a spectacular job on it, so. Thank you. And these are other members here. Ann, I'll let you,
Thank you so very much.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring you up to start with. Literally, I ran.
I understand. The things in the call. Thank you.
Thank
I know
you,
you're
all of
crazy.
you.
Oh, you're
very
welcome.
much.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thanks.
All right, item 7 is certificate to recognize Coach Ed Kelly, the founder and swim coach for Slidell's Hurricane Swim Club, for his commitment to our youth and community. Madam President. Postponed? Okay. All right. Okay. All righty. Okay, number 8 is recognition of the United Way for services provided to St. Tammany Parish. Mr. Belisario.
Thank you. This is a resolution recognizing St. Tammany Parish Government's United Way Drive. Whereas the St. Tammany Parish Government recognizes the contributions made by the United Way to services in St. Tammany Parish through agencies such as the American Red Cross, Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA, YWCA, St. Tammany Association of Retarded Citizens, East St. Tammany Rainbow Child Care Center, Girl Scout Council, Boy Scouts of America, Youth Service Bureau. Whereas the parish government would like to encourage all employees to participate in the 2013 drive through payroll deduction or cash contributions during the campaign scheduled from October 9th through November 1st. Now therefore be resolved that the St. Tammany Parish Government does hereby go on record as supporting the United Way Drive and St. Tammany Parish Government. And be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the official minutes of the parish government, with a copy being sent to all departments and sites to encourage participation in reaching the United Way goal for this year. Now therefore, I, Pat Brister, Parish President, and E.L. Jean Belisario, Parish Councilman, District 9, take great honor by proclaiming October 9th, 2013 through November 1st, 2013 as St. Tammany Parish Government United Way Month, adopted this today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And as you all know, our United Way program here has done so much for the entire community. And thank you, Jean. I know you serve on that board and have for many years. It's done a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, the final thing I want to do is present this for her for her leadership.
Oh, thank
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Belisario has asked that he be allowed to give us and the public a quick update on another issue.
This is just quick for people who live in Fire District Number 1. It's come to my attention that Fire District 1 is the only agency so far in St. Tammany Parish that would be rolling up its millage, and they have an official meeting scheduled for October 28th at the Towers Building on Old Spanish Trail, just want you people to be aware of it. Their current millage is 29.7, and they're looking to go anywhere from 33.8 to 35. So just be watching the newspapers to see that, so that you can come and participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belisario. At this point, I'm going to go to Ms. Brister, who's going to give us some updates on the storm that's in the Gulf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I need to apologize for being so harried. I literally ran from the airport straight into here without picking anything up. So if I look a little disheveled, that's why. But we've had a lot going on today. Just a few things going on. Your parish government and its Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness are receiving continual updates from weather experts at the National Weather Service, and we continue to monitor the track of the system. The administration and all department heads met twice today to discuss the operational protocols for a tropical storm system in the Gulf. We have implemented a partial activation of essential personnel beginning tomorrow morning. At that time, we will look at the storm predictions and make the necessary decisions as to the need to activate further, declare a state of emergency, or other critical and life-saving measures. We urge all residents to prepare for the possibility of a rain and wind event. We ask that you secure items on your property, clear storm drains, stock up on the necessities for a storm event, and pay close attention to weather forecasts. We will continue to post all updates on our website, STPG-TV.org, on our Access St. Tammany station, and the parish's Facebook and Twitter. We all know the drill. We just sometimes forget if we've gone through a long period without a storm. So we're all prepared, and we're hoping that it's going to continue its predicted course, and it'll go a little east of us. So, but be prepared. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. These are the items that we need to pull. You may want to mark it. Under ordinances for introduction, we need to pull item number 1, ordinance calendar number 5068. Under resolutions, we need to pull item 1, resolution CS number C-3802. And under resolutions, we need to pull item 13, resolution CS number C-3834. Any others? Mr. Dean, Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Tanner, Mr. Groby, Mr. Canulet, Mr. Belisario, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Stefancic, Mr. Artigue, Mr. Smith. Okay. Yes, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you. I'm requesting that you pull item, resolution number 6, 3827.
Yes. And Mr. Hernandez, thank you for your email. Resolution number 6. All right. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the consent count. Motion by Mr. Stefancic, seconded by Mr. Artigue. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Item 1, under ordinances for introduction, ordinance calendar number 5068, ordinance to amend ordinances regarding personnel policies. Mr. Sharp.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bender. At the Agenda Review Committee, I mentioned that there's been a great deal of dialogue about this particular ordinance, and we feel like there's still some dialogue that needs to be had about it. We want to do a little bit more research on it, and so at this time I move that we remove it from the agenda.
Okay, motion by Mr. Sharp to remove, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Moving to resolutions. Item 1 is resolution CS number C-3802, resolution to authorize the parish president to sign an administration agreement between the parish and St. Tammany Council on Aging Incorporated, and also we're combining with that item 5 from presentations, the presentation by Coast regarding short and long-range plans to manage its facilities, which would be the first item that we'd like to hear about. How many board members are here from Coast? Okay. Well, appreciate you attending.
Thank you.
Mr. Canada, you're going to speak on behalf of the board?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. We were requested to talk about facilities maintenance, and what I've done is we've broken it down to each center. Basically, the Council on Aging owns one facility, which is our office building complex that we have up in Covington. All of the others are owned by others, and we basically lease time and space. Some of the prior arrangements with some of the buildings, there's some problems that had developed with some of them, some of which was brought on by the 2010 ADA Act changes. And just so everyone's aware, I had extensive discussions with the Fire Marshal's office at the state level relative to that, because historically all of these buildings were treated as being grandfathered, which means most of them were grandfathered to the 1991 code. Well, apparently, according to the Fire Marshal's office, the federal government, with the 2010 Act, said if anybody receives any federal dollars, then they're automatically required to conform to the 2010 ADA Act. And I found that out about, well, I guess, was it May, end of April, first part of May, from the Fire Marshal's office. And that alone right there has affected our process and decisions on what we do and don't do more than anything else, because with a lot of the old buildings that the Council on Aging has historically used at a very good rental rate, it would be very, very expensive to conform to that, where you'd have to make major alterations into it. So what we still adhere to, and it's affected by the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs, who has stated that they really don't like the councils on aging owning property, but rather to lease it and all, because it means you retain more flexibility in administering the program. Now, as a result, let me start off with the Slidell Senior Center, which Coast has a contract with the city of Slidell for $1 a year, and anything that is $500 or less is Coast repairs. Anything beyond that, the city of Slidell takes care of. There are some things that we've been working with them over there to do on installation of TVs and internet and other type of capabilities, and a storage facility over there that we're trying to get into place, and Coast will pick up those costs to do those, because it's above and beyond what FEMA provided in their restoration of the senior center in Slidell. Basically, on a short term, the Council on Aging takes care of routine maintenance items such as AC filters, grass cutting, weeding and shrub trim, smoke detector, fire extinguisher checks, interior cleaning daily by the staff, and once a week we have a contract service come in and do a deep cleaning, and this service is done at all of the sites now, where cleaning the windows and things of that nature. And then we do a pressure wash on the building annually under this new contract that we have with the cleaning service. On the long term with Slidell, we hope to continue the present routine repairs and any other repairs that fall within the existing agreement. Right now, Coast has a good relationship with Mayor Drennan and the council, and we hope to continue to that commitment to serve the seniors in this greater Slidell area through the excellent facilities provided by the city of Slidell. On Folsom, this has been another troubling older building because over the years, the Council on Aging has been in a number of locations, some outside of the city of Folsom, some in, but whatever the services are, the ones that I read before, we do also at the facility that we're renting, and we're renting that from the Masonic Lodge in Folsom now, and we have the exact same problems with the ADA requirements and all with this older facility. And so in the long term, we're going to continue working with the mayor. We've been working with him for about 3 years, and to secure space in the new multipurpose building that they're planning on building, and giving whatever support we can with that. As a result, our view is that what we would then do going into a multipurpose building there, we would have basically the same arrangement we have with Mandeville. The Bush Senior Center cooperative agreement is with the Parish, even though the facility, I think, is still owned by the recreational district, if I remember correctly. We have that cooperative agreement with the Parish on it, and the Parish Department of Facilities Management is responsible for repairs. Once again, all of the routine maintenance items that I had read before, we do that. A lot of them we're on the hook as far as the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs and DHH is concerned on overseeing. So we, even if the parish checks, we're going to check too to make sure it's operational on that. And we do the same cleaning services on it. And we plan to continue that routine maintenance and report any and all building issues to the Parish Department of Facilities Management. On the city of Mandeville, we're renting, once again, time and space from Mandeville city government. They take care of all responsibilities of the building. They manage the building. They give us space for an office and whatever else we need for our equipment and things of that nature. The only maintenance items we check is the fire extinguisher. We do the internal cleaning daily when the seniors, after the seniors leave, and get it ready for the next day, expecting that, and I think Mandeville has handled that pretty well. If they have another function that comes in behind us, when the seniors come the next day, it's clean. Or at least I have not seen any complaints on that. We'll continue that relationship, which has been very good with the city of Mandeville. In Pearl River, we have no written contract. It's basically a month-to-month verbal agreement, which is what the mayor wants. And most of you know Mayor Levine, right? We're not going to argue with him. He's been very generous, and his wife served on the board for a while, and we intend to keep that relationship up along those lines. We do take care of the routine maintenance of AC filters, smoke detector, extinguisher, fire extinguisher, and things of that nature, and do the same cleaning services on that. The Covington Senior Center, we have a contract with the American Legion, which is another one of those that was done back well over a decade ago, which is $1 a year, and Coast takes care of general repairs. We've done repair work on the roof and a number of other ones. We repaired and replaced toilets, air conditioning units, ceiling tiles, plywood on the porch. I know we had the Crescent Pilot Association actually refurbished the flagpole and got that up, and all volunteer labor. The whole building was painted by volunteers from World Changers Ministry, in which they collaborated with the Council on Aging. That was through Pastor Lane Corley, and they painted the entire building in 2013. And we had some additional work that we were hoping to get done over the summer with volunteers there too, which did not come in. But once again, this is another one of those older buildings that you're talking about major work to meet ADA 2010 requirements on that. So in our long term with the Covington Center, we've made preliminary arrangements and have not signed the final contract yet, but to move the seniors to a new multi-purpose building at the Greater Starlight Church there in Covington. It's a 12,000 square foot facility. It already has been inspected by DHH, and it's been inspected by GOEA and approved. And there are only the modifications that are required for startup. If there's something unique that the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs or the Department of Health and Hospitals requires, then we would install that stuff for them on it. Otherwise, we'll pay rent and we'll do the routine maintenance we had talked about before and the cleaning in there, but the rest of it will be on the leaseor, except that any damage, if Coast causes any damage, Coast will repair that. The last one is the Lacombe Center, and that has been an ongoing thing that I think I've almost personally been working full-time on that one. It's another $1 one with the St. Tammany Parish School Board. I had gone through and I'd worked with Lane Corley and with the fire marshal and the other people and came up with a preliminary layout. All of this takes time. We'd been told before that if you do anything that gets close to the floor, call us, because it turns out that the flooring is asbestos. It's been sealed, but if you breach that seal, then you have to go through a lot of other arrangements and preparations. A lot of people don't understand how much magnitude that can be, but having dealt with that onboard ship in my working days, I'm aware of it, and it is not a simple thing necessarily. The fact that we lose all of the, would have to meet all of the ADA requirements, and the other two killers, let me just get back to that, on the thing was, in efforts to look, first we were going to use volunteers to paint the outside of the building. because we thought it was just going to be a straight scrape and prime and paint operation. But before, because the school board owns it, we were insistent that we weren't going to do anything of work until we had the approval of the school board for what was going to be done. Well, I did a layout on the building on what I thought we could do to meet those ADA requirements. But they came back and they said that we wouldn't be able to have it on the same level on the floor. It'd have to be an elevated floor on the bathroom, which makes it a non-starter right from there, because then you're back to the ramps again. The ramps are no longer grandfathered in, although they met the 1991 ADA requirements. But we would, if we put ramping system inside of that building to the bathrooms, we would use up a good 1/3 of the space just for ramps to meet all of the requirements of 2010. Right now, we have a capacity by the fire marshal of 40 in that building. And I figured that we were probably going to have to reduce that to somewhere between 25 and 30. Well, when we add all of this together, that's just a non-starter. I've been on the board 5 years. For 5 years, we've been looking for an alternate location in Lacombe. And there were none that didn't have the same type of problems that we have with that existing building. It's only been recently that the Lutheran church there, Village Church, had space come available in time. Before they had the Sunshine House in there, so it wasn't available. But it's become available, and we think that will work out fine for us to do that with them. And so our plans on the long term is to move the seniors into a new building, which has been identified, which is Village Lutheran Church. Already has the ramp for access in the back. It's separated from the other activities. And we'll have to do modifications for startup, which we'll pay for. Any damages for repair will be paid for by Coast if it's been created by Coast. And the routine monthly maintenance will be maintained by Coast, which is the things that we have to adhere to for state regulations. And so that's where we're going on that. So we're planning on vacating Haddon Hall, and we're planning on vacating the building in Lacombe. We were also told by Office of Public Health that since it's a new facility, we have to start the permit processes from the beginning and go the whole application route, which is going to be probably 15 to 30 days, depending on, it's a bureaucracy, what can I say? That's where we sit on those. The only other one is, the only building that Coast owns is its administrative building. And we've been doing a lot of upgrades and reconfiguration for staff isolation and things of that nature. We are in the process of finalizing our capital outlay approach that we plan on doing, one of which is to have a server system that we don't have go down on us all the time. We're planning on going to 2 servers, mirrored, and which will keep that active all the time. We're adopting programs that the state has started and other programs that are being done so that seniors will be able to come in, they'll just swipe a card, and that'll be the way we get away from all the paper requirements. The other biggest thing on issues at the administrative office is, after Katrina, Coast had lost about 50% of its transportation media, all of the vans for delivering the Meals on Wheels and passenger vans and all, because the policy back then is we had half of the capacity in Slidell at the senior center, and we had half the capacity in Covington at the main office. Well, the board back then consolidated doing all that at the Covington office, and with the issues on flooding and things of that, we have continued to keep everything operating out of the Covington office where we can have our equipment there and everything and not have fear of losing it and flooding and things of that nature. But to do that, we're going to have to complete the design and installation of a concrete parking system. Gravel doesn't work very well with those heavy vans. So that's where we sit with our maintenance activities and policies.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Canada. Appreciate the facility-by-facility update. I know I'm going to have a few questions, but I'll go to Mr. Groby first. Let me just ask the council members real quick. I can see the three lights down here and Mr. Tanner's lights. The only light I can see here is Ms. O'Brien's light. If there would be any way to maybe just string the...
They're trying to hide them.
Okay. Who's on now? Is that Mr. Ortiz? TJ. Okay. All right. Mr. Groby.
Mr. Kent, I want to thank you for coming up tonight and giving us an idea, because basically, I didn't want anyone to get the impression I was here going against Coast. But as a councilman and some of my colleagues, we're the one that gets the calls and complaints. I'm sure you do too, but we don't know how to address them other than bring them to your attention and then have y'all redress them back. One of the things that I want to emphasize, and I want to open invitation to your group, is that at two of my district meetings, I invited Coast to come in to talk about their programs, and the schedule conflicts kept it from happening. But do y'all still want to do the outreach to the various council districts and try to get the seniors involved?
Yeah, let me, as far as outreach on Coast, we've had to sort of put the outreach that we were doing on the side over the last year. However, we were reaching out and intend to go back and reach out to Madisonville and Beta Springs area, which have been two big growth areas, and we have not really reached into those areas very much. Most of the service has been heavily around eastern St. Tammany area and the area up around Mandeville and Covington, which were the main urban centers at that time. But we do want to get into those two areas. The mayor of Abita Springs had talked to us once, and we had discussions going a year ago with the mayor over in Madisonville, also with areas, and we want to reach out into those. Even though they got those big, fancy, expensive homes, there's a lot of people in that area still that have need, that are seniors, that are eligible.
I was a guest at your January meeting when we had kind of all agreed the direction y'all wanted to move, which was great. One of the resolutions, I think the board, I'm a little muddled on this, is that there would be a posting of names for the seniors at the centers if they needed to contact a board member for a complaint or an issue. Was that actually finalized and done at all the centers so the seniors can actually...
You mean on Coast website?
Yes, sir.
I know the board members are on there. I don't know how much of the private information on phone numbers and stuff.
Well,
We prefer to get those kind of things to come into the main office.
I could be mistaken, but I thought the agreement was to put at least a really good contact number at each of the centers for the seniors to call if they had an issue. One of the letters I had received from a senior, Mr. Frank, it goes into great detail, it's handwritten, that I won't rehash tonight. But, you know, his concerns seem valid, and I was just wondering if there's is there an official way that if y'all get a complaint from a senior, y'all call them in, you set up a meeting, you redress it, or?
Well, we have a policy that for a grievance, what we call a grievance policy by the clients, that they can fill out, and it first goes into the normal bureaucracy of Coast, and they look at it and screen it. It goes to the executive director, who then will take action. If the client is not satisfied with that, they can appeal directly to the board for grievance results on that. And so we have that policy, we've put all of that out at each of the senior centers and made it available to the seniors to be able to use that. And that's the preferred method on it. A lot of people don't realize, not only are we operating at the behest of the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs with heavy oversight by DHH, but we're also totally bound by the HIPAA Act. And I don't know how many of you have worked with the HIPAA Act, but we have to be very careful when we're dealing with clients' names, things like that, same as in the medical world, and we guard that judiciously. As a result, we would prefer, if the council members get phone calls, please refer them to the main office.
Okay. One
Okay.
final thing is that I heard you mention earlier about installing TVs at some of the centers and stuff. I received a complaint that the group called Coastal Cruisers, they do fundraisers each year, and they pick different groups. And I think a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit less, that they had raised money for your group.
No, it's been more like about 5 years.
About 5
It was-
years, okay.
Yeah.
And,
It was right after we started construction over in Slidell on the new one. And that's the next project that I'm working on, which is to get the engineering done, because you can't go to the city of Slidell and get a permit to have it installed until you got a drawing, which means I got to get an engineer, licensed civil engineer to do that and do that drawing and all. It's not like we can just jump out there and start running cable.
no, there may be some confusion. I thought-
And that one for the coastal cruisers is also in that same design.
Okay.
Okay, it'll be for the TVs, it'll be for internet access, it'll be for extension of the phone system, because the city of Slidell's specs missed a few holes when it was written, but those will all be on that one there. And it's just a matter of when I can get to working with the engineer to get that done.
I appreciate you coming out tonight. Hopefully, this puts some of this to rest. And if I keep getting complaints, I'll guess, who do I give them to? Do I give them to you, or do I give them to Ms. Tody? Okay.
Either give them to Ms. Tody, or you can just call them into
Okay.
the
Is
office and they will
Okay.
take it
Is-
down.
Is the contact information on the website up to date to where it's easy to get a hold of y'all? that way?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I'd like to share with you that we have a questionnaire box that, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
We have a questionnaire box. My name is Mary Tody, I'm the director for Coast. And we have a questionnaire box that our administrative assistant picks up and will be picking up regularly. We also have the grievance procedure that has a couple of things that they had to revise on it, and that will be re-sent out to any seniors that hadn't received it. And also, we meet weekly, the staff, on all incidents. And as far as contacting me, I have my cell number on all of our business cards. And we also, when you call the office, Ms. Sherry Schwartz is the administrative assistant. She will always make sure that she gets in touch with me, which has always been the case. But I will have to ask, Councilman, that when you receive any kind of concerns on Coast, that you not forward it to the concerned citizens of St. Tammany, sir. And I appreciate
I've never
that.
forwarded anything to concerned
Yes, sir, I
citizens.
have that. Okay. I just asked you.
I don't appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, wait, excuse me, did I miss something there? Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Tody? Yes, sir. Could you come on back to the microphone, please? I just want to make sure what,
No, sir.
No, 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 no.
I want to
I
share with
only-
you
I
that
only wanted
I
to-
asked Mr. Groby that in the future, yes, sir, Mr. Bender.
no. I was conferring with legal counsel.
Yes, sir.
On something completely different. and-
Yes,
and
sir.
I didn't hear it, so what was the comment?
I received an email from Mr. Groby that actually was sent to the concerned citizens instead of directly contacting me and speaking to me, and I'm just kind of concerned on why that happened, unless I'm reading something wrong, but it says, from Jacob Groby to Mr. Ricky Franzo. And I just ask, this is all I have to say tonight, that we came here hoping that we can make everything right with our centers and all, but Mr. Groby, please don't do that.
Ms. Tony, with respect,
Yes.
I'm allowed to talk to anybody in
Yes, sir, but this was a concern for the community.
Let me
Ms. Doty,
finish,
excuse
please.
me. Mr. Groby has the floor.
I invited you to my August council district meeting. It was sent to you by my secretary. I can pull up that email. I don't know why you didn't come.
No, sir, this is on September 18th, but that's okay. I just want to share with you that I would ask you, if you can please call me in the future.
If I
Let's
get a
do
hold of you,
that.
ma'am, I certainly would. Thank you.
Well, yes, but the email, I'm concerned. There's a lot of concerns, and I know this may not be the proper thing to do for some, but I have been through a lot in our agency too. And when I opened this up, I said, this is just going to continuously make the community that hasn't even had the pleasure of really knowing what we're about to continue to be agitated, because we understand there's a lot of concerned citizens, and we are concerned for them that they are concerned. So I ask kindly that we can start tonight to bridge whatever has been happening, and hoping that this particular email that I received, it was a client having a concern, contacting me. I sent it back to the client asking for more details, and when I received it back, it was her right to send to you, sir, but instead of sending it to me and talking to me, sir, you sent it to concerned citizens. Please, I'm just asking you.
I disagree with what your comments are, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Toady.
I just wanted to stop, sir. I asked that it stop.
1 second. Let me just make this comment, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Groby, in my opinion, has done an excellent job of representing his district. Mr. Groby at times has been very patient. Perhaps at times you may view it as not being very patient. But you are no different than us.
Correct.
Okay? You are serving the public.
Correct.
You are serving senior citizens.
Yes, sir, we are.
And let me just say this to you, ma'am. All of us up here have received letters through the years that we're not particularly happy about. We've received letters that may not particularly be totally correct. It happens. What we have to do is focus on what Mr. Canada has been presenting, which is getting you all out of the old building business.
Yes, sir.
You seem to be doing that.
We've been doing that, yes, sir.
The next thing that we have to resolve, okay, is the understanding that we provide, and we passed last month, a millage back for Coast, a substantial millage to fund your organization, okay?
Yes, sir, I understand that,
Well,
and we
okay.
appreciate it, we
Well, I
do.
understand that you appreciate
We
it.
appreciate everything
Then-
that the council
then-
has always done.
Then what you have to also understand is that you have to have conversation and be open to conversation with Councilman Groby or any other council member.
I've
okay?
never not had that, sir, and I won't.
not-
So, Mr. Bender, I appreciate and respect you, but I may ask you, please, to just let me make this last comment, and that is my only point for saying that, is that I have had conversation with Mr. Groby, and a tremendous, one solid year, it makes one solid year that Coast has been tormented, the staff, extreme circumstances, and I don't, I want tomorrow to return to work and be able to do an 8-hour work for the seniors, but it hasn't been. It's been 16 hours a day, and half of it on all of the tormenting that is coming across the community. I understand Mr. Groby's position. Mr. Groby, I understand your position. You're a councilman, and your first email to me, I was very excited about. Everything has progressed to this point, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of external situations of people embedding themselves in the relationship that we probably could have had from the beginning. Now the status is that the concerned citizens of St. Tammany, which I respect them too, never got a chance to really know them and what their full mission is. I'm aware of their mission, but I also know we were on the agenda on October 1st, which I would request from them also the minutes for that meeting. But I'm going to ask you, Mr. Groby, from this point on, that we do talk. And as far as sending any emails out, I was just asking, sir, is it protocol? Because we were talking about protocol. Is it protocol for the council to send it to the concerned citizens to handle? Or is it protocol that you call me or the staff that are eager to handle those situations? We work every day for methodical changes that we know that we're not perfect on to get correction. And this is a really bad situation. It's a tragedy. So I just ask you, sir, what would you suggest at this point?
What I'm going to suggest at this point, since you have some board members here, is that we will have a group that for sure will include myself, Mr. Groby, and possibly one or two other council members who are interested after January 1st to meet with your board.
That would be great.
That is what our next step will be.
Great.
Right now, our interest is in seeing the buildings that Mr. Canada has presented, okay? An excellent presentation. Get to the new buildings because y'all are not in the old building business.
No, we're not.
And we
No, sir, we're
understand
not.
that. It is not going, excuse me one second. It is not going to get better. We don't blame you for it. It is extremely encouraging. Mr. Groby and I both spoke to Pastor Paul with Village Lutheran Church. They seem to be very excited, okay? I think that looks extremely promising for Lacombe. And hopefully, their membership will increase. I not only respect Coast, and I may not agree with every comment, but it is a worthwhile organization. CCST is also a worthwhile organization in many of the things that they try to accomplish. I may not agree with every approach, but the fact of the matter is that's how we operate as a community, okay? And we will be meeting with your board after the first of the year to address other issues other than buildings. So now back to Mr. Canada. Thank you, Ms. Toady.
You're welcome. I look forward to that as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr.
may I interrupt? Could we, and with all due respect to everybody involved, could we wrap this up? Because we have, all I can think of is we're probably paying a couple of $100 an hour to the coroner's office to sit over there and listen to all this. And no offense, but this is,
Does Chuck make that
and we're
much?
going on about $400 or $500 already. So could we get going? No disrespect to Coast or Mr. Canada, whoever.
Thank you, Mr. Canada.
I'm here at the Parish Council's pleasure.
Mr. Dean, you make a great point. I do have to tell you, though, you, with all respect, you've not been in a loop on this issue. Fair enough. Mr. Canada?
Yes,
At Mr. Dean's request, thank you, sir.
thank you.
Can I speak for a minute? Just 1 second. All I
Mr.
have to say-
Dean?
Just 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll chip in the extra few bucks there.
Hi, my name is Paula Bourne, and the seniors that have been coming to us, okay, and the email that she's talking about came from me, from one of the seniors. So Jake
Okay.
Roby didn't have nothing to do with this.
Well,
And I thank you. I just wanted to tell y'all, and I apologize.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Smith, did you have a question? Not anymore, huh?
He's waiting for January.
I tell you what, Mr. Dean, you got a mighty sword down there.
But in all seriousness, would you mind moving this up in front of Mr. Carlos's item that he pulled?
The coroner? Certainly.
Thank you.
Do you make that motion?
Yes, sir. Save us a couple of bucks.
Excuse me 1 second. Yeah, Mr. Dean, we do have to handle the resolution on the cooperative endeavor agreement, okay? So I need a motion to authorize the parish president to work on a cooperative endeavor agreement with Coast. Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by, was that Mr. Tanner? Seconded by Mr. Tanner, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, I will say while you're voting, so I don't
Okay.
take up a lot of time, in the agreement, it has a lot of reporting requirements and
Right.
for them to come a couple times. So I think a lot of this will be taken care of in that realm.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Okay.
You have to vote.
Mr. Smith? Oh, there it went. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Thompson, to move up resolution number 13, CS number C-3834. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Branton, is there anyone else here from the coroner's office that is going to speak besides yourself?
No, sir.
Okay. Could any of the citizens in the audience that want to speak on this topic of the CFO salary, please raise their hands? Okay, so we have just Mr. Franzo? Correct. Okay. Mr. Branton, how many minutes do you think you need to make your presentation?
Not very long, couple minutes.
Okay, Mr. Franzo?
Maybe a minute.
All right. Well, then,
That's good, right?
that's excellent. That's excellent. Then I'm going to limit to 3 minutes of both sides. Okay? Is that agreeable?
Fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Brandt, would you like to proceed?
Very briefly, I've been here before. I'm Chuck Branton. I'm here on behalf of the coroner's office. In June, we met with the parish. The parish has been made aware of the empty CFO position. It has been advertised. The parish has the job description in accordance with the act. We have come forward tonight asking that the parish set the salary that we can then use to try and attract a qualified CFO.
Okay. And of course, Mr. Brandt, you'll have remaining time if you need it. Mr. Franzo.
Thank you, Chairman and Parish Council. This is hot off the press, and I just want to read this to you. It's quick. This came in today, and it's from Biloxi. It says the Mississippi Department of, and I'm going to give it this, I only have one copy because I just got it, and I'll give it to you as something I'd like to share with you. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources has hired a chief financial officer and chief operation officer, an agency's news release said Wednesday. Bill Fite, 42, of Pascagoula, will be the agency's CFO, retired brigadier general. Joe Spriggan, 60, will be, at the age of 60, will serve as Chief Operating Officer. Scallion said Field took what had been a deputy director job briefly, but I won't get into that. Okay, Scallion and Field will be paid $846.82 as the agency's chief financial officer, and Spriggans will be paid $57,593.08. Field holds bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from the University of Mississippi, an MBA from Dartmouth College. He has worked as Director of Finance and Planning at WorldCom and SkyTel. He was most recently Vice President of Strategic and Tactical Support, which provides financial support to businesses. Spraggins is best known to Coast residents as Director of the Harris County Emergency Medical Agency during and after Hurricane Katrina. In 2009, he ran as Gulfport mayor. He graduated from Troy University with a bachelor's degree in resource management. He served 34 years in the military, retiring from the National Guard as a brigadier general. He has served as commander of the Combat Readiness Training Center in Gulfport. And why I want to give this to you, because the qualifications of these two gentlemen are extremely impressive, of a very big organization, and their salaries as CFO are $69,000, and as a chief operating officer is $57,000. So your initial discussions on salaries, I believe, is right in the ballpark. So anyway, I just want to submit this to the council.
Please, if we could get a copy, Don. Thank you, Mr. Franzo.
No, I have it. Thank you.
Mr. Branton, any more time that you'd like to use?
No, as I said, this has been known to the parish for months. We're trying to fill what we believe is a critical hire, and we're asking that this parish, tell us what figure that we can go forward with.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Tanner.
Yes, Mr. Bennett, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we set a levels for the chief financial officer at the coroner's office. That level starting at $60,000 and going up to $75,000, depending on education and experience.
Okay.
May I ask for some clarification of Mr. Tanner?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tanner, when you say levels, are you saying that that's the range, depending on the person's qualifications, it would be between 60 as the low end and 75 as the high end?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith? Okay. Okay, Gene, and then I'll go myself. Gene?
Is there anybody else going to speak? Since we have the ribbons up here, it's difficult to see the lights. Tanner, okay. All right, looking at this position, I know from the work research we had done for the CEO position, we're looking at a range where I think that we should be really looking at somewhere between 60 to maybe 65 as the range to operate from. One of the reasons I'm saying that we're talking about CFO position, but we already have the CFO. If you look at the state law change, our chief financial officer is going to be working with us on the budget, and we're going to be working with her because we're going to be setting salaries, and there's a spinoff in that, the fringes. And when we set the millage, we already set the cap on the size of the budget. So, the way I'm looking at it, I would feel more comfortable dealing with a range on this from 60 to 65, and I'm suggesting this as an amendment to the original motion. If I can get a second, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we have a motion, a second from, was that Mr. Groby or Mr. Mr. Okay, amendment. Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. O'Brien.
I just wanted to point out that when we looked at some comparable salaries, Baton Rouge was paying somebody in this position $53, and as I recall, they had a lot of experience also.
Yeah, actually, they're paying 52. Actually, it's Jefferson Parish that's paying 82 with 33 years of experience. Right, the one with a lot of experience was Jeff Parish at 82, and you're right, Baton Rouge is at 52.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
can
Mr. Canlett.
you ask Mr. Tanner if he is willing to change the
Yeah.
original motion?
And-
So we
and
can go
I-
forward with this?
Before I do that, Mr. Tanner, can I make just a statement on that? No, okay. Mr. Dean, may I? You know, in looking at Jefferson Parish and East Baton Rouge Parish, the midpoint is 67.5, okay? Me personally, I would like to set a salary, and I would like the salary to be somewhere in the $65,000 to $68,000 range, a salary, okay? And the reason I say that is because I think Mr. Henderson had come up with a good point for the future, which is we're going to be dealing with pay raises assuming that the law remains the same after January 1st. We're going to be dealing with pay raises if we continue to have control over the salaries. And I think Mr. Henderson, who presented this to several of us involved with the Finance Committee, he had a very good suggestion, which is why not set a step increase with grades just as we do in parish government, okay?
That's what my motion was.
But your motion is to give the coroner's office
Yeah.
a range to hire from.
No.
Well, that's what that's the way we understood it.
Said to set levels, starting at 60 to go to 75.
But my question to you, Mr. Tanner, was, is the 60,000 where, is it a range where we could make an offer to a candidate depending on, you said, depending on qualifications, experience, between 60 and 75? And I thought what I heard was that you said, yes, that was the range.
That is the range.
But that
That's
was,
not for you to decide, that's for the parish to decide, based on the qualifications that you give us that this person has to have.
Okay, Mr. Tanner,
I don't have any problem with Mr. Belisario's amendment, except for the fact, it's just like you said, are we going to, every year, we're going to go and try to reset somebody's salary because they need a merit increase or what have you? And reason I'm saying 60 to 75, we can do 55 to 75. Doesn't bother me, but, if we're going to hire a young CPA getting started, and expect that person to work for $55,000 for 40 years in a coroner's office, that's not going to happen.
okay, Mr. Tanner, let me clarify something. Mr. Henderson, explain what you explained to myself and members of the Finance Committee on the grade system, because under the system that Mr. Henderson is recommending that the council pass right towards the end of this year, we would put every single person in the coroner's office at their salary and the step that they fit into that grade, so that, just like our employees, whether it's in the administration or the council, we don't have to vote on their pay raises, because the next step automatically, let's say, for example, we set this person's salary at $68,000. The next step might say $70,200, cost of living and merit. The next year, it might say cost of living and merit $72,652. Am I correct, Mr. Henderson? Okay. So the plan is, what Mr. Branton has asked for is, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Branton, so they don't get into a situation they were in last time.
Exactly.
Okay, let me
You see-
just say,
Mr. Bender,
okay.
it's quite simple. We have to conduct a search for a qualified applicant. We need to have we need to know not only what we can advertise, but what we can offer. And right now, standing here right now, I don't know if it's going to be where we can offer 60,000, 62.5, 70, 75, whatever, because.
And we're going to reach that.
Okay, and I do have a request for information. I understand that one of the items that was pulled, the pay scales and rules, is there anything else dealing with the coroner's office tonight on the agenda?
Pay scales and rules.
I saw something on the consent calendar that was pulled.
No, it has to do with the Board of Adjustments.
Okay, but, you know, what I'm looking for is some clarity, because certainly we want to find, a good qualified candidate with a public accounting experience. But we also, when they interview, well, what can I expect to get paid? We need to have numbers that we can honestly tell them.
I understand. You don't want to have to come back to us again. You want a finite number.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I withdraw my motion. We'll just give them a number and say that's it.
We're dealing.
And then go along with your suggestion of doing it.
What Mr. Henderson has come up with.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Tanner. Okay, so do we have a motion on a finite salary?
All right, I'll withdraw mine and set the salary at 62.5.
Okay, we have Mr. Groby.
I'd like to make a comment. One of the things that we have to also look at is the level of work that this office would perform as compared to Baton Rouge and Jefferson, so I would be glad to second the 62.5 of Mr. Belsario.
Okay, so any other comment, Mr. Stefanski?
You had 2 withdrawals of a motion and no withdrawals of the second. So
Who
I
was
think
the
you need to
second for Mr.
understand
Tanner? Mr. Smith, do you withdraw?
Reluctantly, I will, but I want to qualify that, though. The reason that I second that motion is because I agree with Mr. Tanner that we need to give that office and that administration some degree of movement that they can work within, instead of confining them to one particular number that would limit them in the approach that they would need in order to find a very qualified person. But I don't want to debate that. I just wanted to qualify my agreement to remove my second, okay?
Okay. He's agreed to remove the second, Mr. Brandt. Thank you. Okay, and who else needs to withdraw them? Mr. Grover, you withdraw your second on that other motion from 60 to 65? Okay. So both seconds have been withdrawn. Now we have a motion by Mr. Bellisario, seconded by Mr. Groby, to set the salary that you may offer at $62,500. Now, a yes vote from the council, that's what the salary will be set at. A no vote, it won't be set at that. If we get a majority yes, it passes. A majority no, we need to come up with a new salary. Please vote.
Motion passes 10 yeas, 2 nays, 2 absent.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Branton, good luck in your search.
Thank you.
Okay. Going back to item 6 under resolution CS number C-3827, resolution to amend the St. Tammany Parish Board of Adjustment Rules of Procedure. And this is Mr. Hernandez. Welcome, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you. Carl Hernandez, I want to apologize for not wearing my pink outfit this evening.
Carlo, you want my boa? There it is, right there.
Thank you. Thank you. This resolution deals with the Board of Adjustments. This is, I know there are a couple of members that are here tonight, and I think they can tell you that I attend virtually all of their meetings and have for the last number of years. In any case, I'm very familiar with the Board of Adjustments. What I would like to do with regard to this resolution, which I think make some very good changes to it. But one major improvement I would like to propose to the council's consideration is the fact that there's no requirement for a sign to be placed in front of the property that's requesting this variance or variances. This is something to better inform the public. I think that many people, I know that I get the official journal. I don't necessarily read it from cover to cover in every public notice, but when I'm looking for particular things, I know where to look. And not everyone gets the official journal. The notices that are presently in the proposed resolution talks about placing a notice outside of this office in front of the building here for 3 days before the meeting, and also having the notice placed in the official journal 3 times. So what I'm proposing is an amendment to allow or require that a sign, a minimum of 2 feet by 2 feet, be placed in front of the property in order to better inform the public in terms of what's going on with regard to this request for a variance. I know that I myself, and I think many other individuals, get to see that zoning and the subdivision requests for modifications are noticed because of this yellow sign that appears in front of the place. Maybe you want to consider, if you do consider requiring this sign to go up, maybe a pink sign would be a better sign color to use for this, but I would hope that yes, that you will consider making a sign a requirement, and I'm hoping that you give this serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Oh, I don't get to keep it.
Mr. Chairman, when you get around, I will be happy to.
Yes, sir.
I'm Tim Fan, I'm chairman of the Board of Adjustments, and we do have that in our articles. That hasn't changed in our bylaws. It's in section, Article 3, section number 3, and it says, whenever notice to neighboring property owners is considered a necessity, such notice shall be given either on a notice of hearing form, which is number 203, and/or by posting notice of the meeting on or near the subject property at least 10 days prior to the Board of Adjustments meeting date. So we have it in our bylaws. That hasn't been changed.
Thank you. Ms. Brister?
Thank you. When the suggestion was made, we don't have any problems with doing that. The only thing that I think when Mr. Hernandez said maybe make it a different color, that complicates things somewhat. We are going to the larger signs. We're going through the procurement process to get the bigger signs, but we would like to use the same color signs for both, if that's what you choose for us to do. Just so we don't have to
Yes, sir.
Maybe the version that I saw online was not the final version, because the version I saw online, what he just referenced, was struck out. So, I'm confused about, that because what you're about to adopt strikes that out. So that is not the requirement. So what I'm suggesting is that, yes, you put it back in, that you do have a sign that's required, and that would give better notification. Thank you.
Mr. Hand, I hate to put you on the spot, but
Mr. Groby?
I think it's a good suggestion. Sydney, do you know what the ordinance currently says?
That section would be struck out.
It would be struck out.
Actually, my reading of that language is that it's a ability to put up a sign. It's not a requirement to put up a sign.
What's your feelings on it, Sydney?
We do 5 cases a month. If budget and procurement is the issue, and we're actually on the other, as Ms. Brister said, on the other questions about other notification, we're already working on some improvements to that.
Public notification would be the way to go in my book. I would like to see to keep the sign.
Okay, do we have Mr. Belisario or Mr. Stefancic, or is your light on, Mr. Smith? No. Okay. Mr. Belisario, you're off?
Yes.
Mr. Stefancic?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. Ms. Maureen, you want to speak? No, I thought Gene was on. Your light was on.
I turned my light off. I got the answer I wanted to.
Okay. Mr. Stefancic?
Sydney, this board consists of 7 people. 2 of them are alternates, and I thought when we started this board that the 2 alternates were there to sit as part of the board, but they couldn't be a member of the board unless we appointed them as a member. Is that still the way that's done, or do they take the place of a missing person if they're there?
My
If they're not
understanding
there?
is they take the place of missing members.
They can
When
sit
members-
in.
Yeah, when members are not, because the Board of Adjustments has a much higher
I know.
standard for voting, 4 out of the 5
Well,
members
it
must
takes
approve.
4 to have a quorum,
Takes a 4, yeah, it takes a 4 out of, have a quorum.
and is
It
that
has such
4
a
out
high
of 7 or
standard.
4 out of 5?
Out of 5.
4 out of 5.
have
So
5 members of the board.
So when you look
2
at it,
alternates.
if one of them's missing, the alternate
Somebody comes
person
in.
can sit in for him. Okay.
Correct.
So I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, on Mr. Carlo's amended request, does anybody want to make a motion on that? Mr. Groby?
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Ms. O'Brien. We're going to vote first on the amendment. Does everyone clearly understand the amendment as stated? Okay. Don, you have it for the record?
Mr. Chairman,
it's
we
a hesitant
understand
yes.
what, and we can put that language in.
And we
send it
have
back.
his email as well. Terry's reminded me. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the resolution as amended? Motion by Ms. O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
Okay, appeals. Item 1 is Gregory Luckett appealing the zoning commission approval on September 3rd, 2013 to rezone 0.42 acres located north of Ben Thomas Road, west of Highway 11, being 37397 Ben Thomas Road, Slidell, from HC2 Highway Commercial District to I2 Industrial District, Ward 9, District 14. Mr. Luckett.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
I don't see Mr. Luckett in the room, and if I may,
Yes.
I am anticipating that he will not be here tonight, and that is, yes, you can pass that out, in relationship to this appeal, because I think it was his intention to withdraw it. Why he didn't do that, I don't know. However, we can save ourselves a lot of unnecessary time and minutes by getting right to the point here. We are in a position to take an action tonight, and before we do that, though, we would like for Mr. Shane to come forward at this time and introduce a piece of information that's going to be instrumental in the action that we're going to take tonight, that has been decided upon by all parties as an agreement.
Okay, great. Mr. Shane.
Good evening, Mr. Bender.
Yes, sir.
Honorable Counsel, Jeff Shane of Jones Fussell. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Miro Katera, who are the owners and petitioners in this case for a change of zoning from HC2 to I2 to allow Mr. Katera to continue to operate a machine shop in a building that has been used for the operation of a machine shop for approximately 30 years. We have been a part of 2 community meetings in the community. We received what we believe was a resounding 9-to-1 vote recommending the change of zoning by the Zoning Commission. But I think a critical component in this case has been my client's willingness to offer a deed restriction to bear against this property that would limit the only use to that of a machine shop and would prohibit any and all other uses in I-2. A deed restriction that would run with the land, a deed restriction that would continue even if the property is sold, that has further covenants to suggest that the building cannot be enlarged, that none of the activities can be conducted outside of the building, and things of that nature. We appreciate the support and assistance that we've received from the North Slidell Homeowners Association, particularly their leadership with Pastor Kathleen Bacon having facilitated 2 community meetings. We also appreciate Councilman Smith keeping his finger on the pulse of his constituency and communicating with all of us about this case and trying to find what we thought would be a common ground solution. I would be glad to tender a copy of the deed restriction that I also put into the record at the time of the Zoning Commission recommendation. It bears the 2 changes that the Zoning Commission requested, and I've told Mr. Smith if further tweaking of the deed restrictions necessary between now and the night of adoption of the ordinance, we will be glad to sit down with him in that regard.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, and with that information, Mr. Chairman, we would like to make a motion to concur with the Zoning Commission's approval of this particular.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
Okay, introduction of an ordinance.
Move to introduce.
Motion by Mr. Smith to introduce an ordinance, seconded by Mr. Canulette. That's all we need. Thank you. Ordinances for adoption. Item 1, ordinance calendar number 5008. Ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 5.0192 acres from HC3 to I1, Ward 8, District 14. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we're back again to ask for, matter of fact, to offer a motion to postpone this again due to a possible appeal by the appellant to come before the Board of Adjustments as it relates to some of the landscaping requirements in this particular ordinance.
Okay, so your motion is to postpone?
Yes, sir.
Seconded. Any second? Seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous. Motion passes, 9 yeas, 2 nays, 2 absent.
All right, item 2 is ordinance calendar number 5023, ordinance to revoke a portion of Bryan Drive right-of-way located in Slidell Ozone Heights subdivision, Ward 9, District 14. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, again, before we take any action on this or offer any action on it, we'd like to recognize Mr. Marone. I think he may want to speak to the council about this particular ordinance.
Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone, on behalf of the petitioner of this particular petition for revocation. This matter has been tabled, as you know, for 3 consecutive months. My client is under certain time frames with regards to the property and the project, and as a result, we would respectfully request that the council take action tonight, make a decision on this project on our request for the revocation, and allow us to move forward regardless of what that decision may be. We've been working for some time with Mr. Smith on this matter. There has not been a presentation as of yet to the council, so I'd like to just very briefly explain to you what we're doing, what the request is, what the nature of the property is, and I'll be brief because it's a fairly basic proposal that is before you on this particular item. The matter before you is a request to revoke a portion of the Bryan Street right-of-way. It's a portion of that right-of-way that is 30 feet wide by about 280 feet long. It parallels the property of my client. It also, the Bryan Street right-of-way parallels I-12 at Highway 11. And this is a very small portion of Bryan. It actually runs between Powell Drive and dead ends into the off-ramp at the Highway 11 I-12 intersection. The whole roadway has a length of only about 600 feet, and it, of course, has never been opened. And in fact, it can't be opened all the way to Highway 11 because its intersection with the interstate system. If you were to try to cut through Bryan Drive from Powell, you would actually hit the off-ramp of I-12 in that location. We're requesting 30 feet of the right-of-way, and what is unique about Bryan Drive is that, although unopened, it is a 90-foot right-of-way. So if granted, the 30 feet that we're proposing would still leave the parish with 60 feet of right-of-way existing. And as you well know, a 60-foot right-of-way is the standard right-of-way for any parish roadway. So by taking the 30 feet out, the parish would still have ample right-of-way if it were ever needed. Now, there is some property on the north side of the Bryan Street right-of-way between Bryan Street and the interstate, but these are very small parcels of property. There are several lots there. Those lots measure about 50 feet, 52 feet in width, by a depth at the greatest of about 100 feet or 120 feet. So as you can see, while there could be some use for this adjacent property, the use will be limited, but access is going to be maintained. The parish will still have 60 feet in order to access those properties, which, again, I would submit to you is more than enough for what amounts to a small sliver of property. In my estimation, I would respectfully submit that there's simply no reason not to revoke this right-of-way. In fact, for many years, this right-of-way was barricaded at its entrance by DOTD barricades and materials and so forth. There's just no reason not to revoke it. It is not putting the parish or any adjacent property owners in any peril whatsoever. Our original petition was reviewed by your staff. They recommended approval, found no objections whatsoever. At the Planning Commission, likewise, there was a unanimous vote approving the revocation. So it comes to you with two positive recommendations. We would urge you to vote in favor of it. There is not a downside. There is not a negative implication as a result of any action you might take to revoke. We would very much like to have the property to improve our development, and we think it meets with sound planning. So we would respectfully request your approval this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the council members may have.
Mr. Morone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm completely accurate on this. This is the 30-foot of right-of-way on Bryan.
That is correct.
And I understand your point, and I was aware of it, but I'm glad you brought it up, that it does run into the off-ramp of I-10, so it can't be open.
That's correct.
This would be the property that your client is looking to improve from this old Jubilee gas station, truck stop. I went by there to look at it. That is the property that you all are looking to improve.
That's correct. If this is revoked, it would be incorporated into the improvement of that entire site.
And the revocation of this would give you some substantial advantage?
It is not, yes. What it will do, it will allow the site to flow better, to improve circulation, to allow customers to get in and out in a more efficient and more safe manner.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stefanski.
Who owns that property right now?
The Jubilee station?
No, the 30-foot right-of-way.
It is.
No, the parish has a right-of-way. Who owns the property?
The parish has a right-of-way pursuant to a dedication on a subdivision plat from 1956 or 58.
So a revocation of this, if it happened, would then it would be sold, I mean, the parish would have to sell that to you, right?
That's correct.
Go through the process of getting two estimates and all that we do. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
That's correct.
That your client didn't already own it and was asking, there's a difference between those two things.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Okay, Mr. Bellisario, then Mr. Canulet.
Okay. My request to Paul is, if this is approved, then Racetrack would go through with the purchase, because you probably have not purchased the property adjacent to the right-of-way, correct?
That's correct. We're in the process of acquiring that. That would happen probably in the next 30 days, while the appraisal process would be going forward with the parish, and we would acquire the right-of-way, if approved, soon thereafter.
Okay. So the funds from that right-of-way purchase then would revert to parish government?
That's correct.
Okay. And I would presume in either Pat or Kelly, probably Kelly Ravelay, that is a piece of property that's never been developed. It's sitting there, it's on a plat, but was never developed. So therefore, the proceeds from that would go into the general fund, and then if we wanted to in the future, we could call up that through a resolution and dedicate it to a project in the district. Is that correct, Kelly? Yes, I thought so. Okay, that's why I thought it could be done that way, because it's not restricted. It would be unrestricted funds in the general fund, and TJ or his successor could come in and request that that money be allotted in a resolution to a capital or drainage project.
That
Move
was
for a successor
yeah,
or what?
That was going to be my comment.
Mr. Canulette.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Smith, who is still breathing over there.
I was kind of on the same
Mr. Tanner.
page with Gene. I would really like to see this property go to the district. They need some work over there. Any amount of money could be greatly used for beautification and appreciation. But I think one of the big things about what they're asking for is the safety aspect. Considering where it's at, it's right there next to the interstate. If it makes that property safer, I mean, I feel it's just a win-win. It's just so smart. It's just smart to make this place as safe as possible for all our citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Tanner.
My question is, we are only revoking 30 feet of it. There's 60 feet that we're not revoking. And as I assume that is adjacent to the lots that he talked about that are 50 by 100? Who owns those lots?
There are different owners. I think there's a faith-based organization in the community that owns a large portion of it, who have some plans for development of it. But I think those separate 50-foot lots, though, are still on the market.
Doesn't this take away the value, some of the value of those lots? Because, even though there's a 90-foot servitude, what if they asked for 30 foot, well, then we only got 30 foot left?
Well, you speak to exactly where I was going to have some discussion about. While we recognize that it's only 30 feet of the 90 feet that they're asking, there's some other thing that we need to take consideration here. Number one is that, as Mr. Morone stated, the 60-foot standard is more than appropriate under normal circumstances. And I think one of the things that we have to make sure that we are mindful of in that thought process is that this is not necessarily a normal situation. Those lots that you referred to, Mr. Tanner, if put together, and we have had some discussion with some potential developers about the possibility of putting a hotel or motel there, combining those 50-foot lots together and making them out of one and putting up a nice hotel motel operation. And if so, then it would preclude the parish from being able to provide a real nice boulevard to accommodate those properties as well as the one that's being proposed by Mr. Marone's client. The other thing is that I think the 30 feet that is being asked for revocation has already been fenced in by the previous owner, Jubilee. So they didn't own it in the first place. They were kind of encroaching on part of the right-of-way, and so now after the survey has been done, we find that they want to make it a whole piece. But let me talk to another subject, though, that needs to be factored in more than any of those, and that is the potential impact of the road and drainage in that area. The parish has been looking at making some improvements on Bryan Road for quite some time now. As a matter of fact, we've allocated about somewhere around $50,000 to improve Bryan Road in that area because of some traffic and road issues that we currently face. We just haven't found enough money to do that. So we've been trying to have some negotiations over these past few months with the developer about entering into a public-private partnership to address those drainage and road issues. Once this development comes online and we understand that it is going to be done, whether or not the revocation is given or not, it's going to happen. And that is not a matter of being essential to the developer's plans for that particular project. So with that in mind, we need to make sure that we don't prohibit ourselves from any future developments that are going to be adjoining this property by giving away or selling away some right-of-way that we may need to make that a very enhanced corridor coming off I-10.
Mr. Morone?
If I could respond just briefly, I would respectfully disagree that a 600-foot strip of roadway with a depth on the property adjacent to it of about 100 or 150 feet requires a boulevard. I've put subdivisions in this parish for 10 years with hundreds of lots, and there's no requirement for a boulevard. To suggest that the only way that this property, this sliver of property between the northern side of the Bryan Street right-of-way and the interstate can be developed would be with a boulevard simply does not comport with the manner in which development goes on in this parish. And it doesn't comport with your regulations, doesn't comport with your ordinances. Your ordinances for a development of this type would be more than well served with the 60-foot right-of-way. As far as hurting the value of the property that is between the Bryan Street right-of-way and the interstate, I would submit to you that having that property with frontage on a 60-foot right-of-way as opposed to a 90-foot right-of-way does not negatively impact that property's value because that property has access, and it has legal access, and it has practical access. So I would disagree that there is a diminution in value there. With regards to the drainage improvements that need to be made in the area, I would remind you that we are not taking a site that is pristine. We are not taking a site that is wooded. We are taking a site that the only trees that are on it now have grown up through the concrete that covers every square inch of it. When we develop this site, we will develop it in accordance with the rules, regulations, and ordinances that are in place. And we will make sure that this property drains better after than it does today. Again, we're dealing with an overgrown, abandoned, eyesore, dangerous situation with that property. If we're worried about the property value on the other side of Bryan Street, the best thing that we can do is to develop this tracker ground and not leave it like it is now. So I would respectfully request, as I said before, there is not a downside to revoking this right-of-way. This 30 feet holds no practical use. You are not damaging the parish. You're not damaging the adjacent property owners. This is a vote that should be yes. Your staff recommended it. Your commission recommended it, and I would implore you to vote yes this evening.
Okay. Mr. Smith, I'd like to make a comment.
Certainly.
Okay. You know, I know that we faced this in the tract, the larger tract, Mr. Morone, that you're referring to, that's Jubilee, okay, for a number of months now, and that's fine. I went out to the site, I looked at it, I get off at that Highway 11 exit. regardless of whose council district this is in, I would just say this. That Jubilee is the biggest eyesore getting off of any interstate exit in the entire parish of St. Tammany. There's not another piece of property that looks worse, that is worse. Ever since we got involved in this, I think about this when I've gone out and seen the property and the condition it's in, of people sleeping inside the convenience store, of people dealing potentially drugs because it's an easy place to do so, or at worst, a convenient place to rob someone, you know, in a shooting be involved. I can't imagine continuing to get off the interstate for however much longer and seeing what I'm seeing if we have an opportunity to make something much better. And that's just common sense on my part. If you go down about one light, you take a left, you're in Mr. Canulet's district. You go down over the overpass, a total of about 7 blocks, you take a left, you're in my district. You go north, take a right, you're in Councilman Bellisario's district, okay? This is an interstate system. For me, that's more of a global issue, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Bender, we have someone from the audience real quick.
I'm sorry.
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I didn't know that this would, because I'm so concerned about our seniors at Coast, but I live there. And I was wondering, up until meeting with the mayor, Drennan and others, when we were going to do something with that area. I totally agree with you. And I saw there was a robbery across the street. We were having a meeting at the Seventh-day Adventist Church Tuesday, and Mr. Wilbur Thompson, somebody came up the street running fast, knocked him out with a gun, kicked him. He's in the hospital. We need to do something with that property there that was Jubilee. It's Jubilee no more, and now grass is growing. I beseech you, brothers and sisters, that you agree tonight to do something with that property. Whatever they're asking, give it to them.
Okay,
I mean, I'm catching the end. I didn't know. I'm here for the seniors.
I understand.
But God wanted me to still be here, evidently. We were just talking about that. We were just talking about, right next door is the Shell station. When there are FedEx trucks parked there, they drive the truck part off and leave the cabin. They sleep there. I even went there a couple times and drug the concrete signs. There's a sign said no parking in a concrete bucket to put there, and they come and they just knock it. We call the sheriff's department. Please monitor that. And you're right about drugs. I live there, okay? Javery and Ben Thomas. I live there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my parents, George and Inez Murray Gaddy, bought that property years ago from New Houses. I can ride my bicycle all through the neighborhood and end up with this eyesore on Interstate 12. I feel that racetrack, my God, it could be Quick Trip. It could be somebody need to move there to really give us some relief with that eyesore.
Okay, and
Mr.
ma'am,
Chairman?
for the
Sir?
record, could I?
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure, after that great dissertation, make sure she gives her name.
I'm sorry.
I just need for the record your name.
Okay, I'm Pastor Kathleen Javery Bacon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay. All right. I thank you. Do us a big favor, please. Help us.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay. Mr. Smith.
I would say that that's a hard act to follow, but it's really not. Especially after.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Smith has the floor now.
Yeah, especially after the platform was kind of set that, these kind of comments could be accepted. But let me say this to you. For too long in that community, people have been willing to give away their resource. And we don't have much regard and much respect for that whenever you want to give away your resource. And there's more than one way to do that. But we are confusing the issues here right now. Right now, the issue is not whether or not Jubilee is going to go away, Mr. Chairman. That's going to be done regardless of what we do. So that property, as we appreciate and understand it, is going to go away because the developer he's going to develop it into a racetrack. So I would like to get our focus back on the question that's at hand tonight, and that is the revocation of a 30-foot wide piece of property. Not whether or not Jubilee is going to go away or whether racetrack is going to come. That is going to happen. It's a given. Mr. Marone stated that to us. And he said to us that whether we revoke this property or not, it's non-essential to their development. So I would like to direct our attention back to the question at hand. We have an opportunity here to not only add to the racetrack development, but we also have an opportunity to add to the other developments that are going to come in that corridor and make it what everybody wants it to be, a first-class get-off-the interstate exit ramp, and enhance the quality of life for that community. So if we squander that now, then we have given away our resource. And that's all we're trying to ask you to do tonight. We have asked that we can continue negotiations with the developer along those lines, but they have some time constraints, and we appreciate and understand that. But I adjure you again, do not confuse the issue. Trust me, I know that district just as well as anybody on this dais. And I know some of the problems that exist there now. And with that being said, I would like to ask that we would remove this item from the agenda and that we do not grant the revocation at this time.
Okay, so who's the second? Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Smith to remove this item from the agenda, not grant the revocation, seconded by Mr. Tanner. A yes would remove it, a no would, I guess, revoke it, Mr. Hand?
No.
We need another motion. So the motion on hand is to remove it from the agenda, yes or no? Please vote.
Question.
All right.
This was passed by the Planning Commission?
Yeah?
It was passed by planning, not zoning? And if it's planning, it doesn't, the decision of the planning go into effect if we don't take anything? I mean, I know zoning doesn't, but
This is zoning.
this is not zoning. This is planning.
Right. If I could, this is not a planning decision in the sense of tentative or preliminary. It's a revocation. I believe, respectfully, to revoke a right-of-way, it's going to take the ordinance.
It's a recommendation from the Planning Commission, not an action by the Planning Commission on a subdivision approval.
Okay. So we would have to revoke it through the ordinance then, okay.
Motion fails, 3 yeas, 8 nays, 2 absent.
Okay, so, excuse me? Mr. Canulet.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I respect Mr. TJ's comments and all, but I respectfully disagree. I want to make a motion to accept it.
So your motion is to revoke the portion of Bryan Drive as written on the agenda.
I would like to let the racetrack purchase the property from the parish.
Okay, but wait. The ordinance before us
So,
is
yes.
to revoke a portion of Bryan Drive right-of-way,
Yes.
which is what we've been discussing.
Yes, that's fine, yes.
And seconded by Mr. Ortiz. Okay? Please vote.
Motion passes 10 yeas, 2 nays, 2 absent.
Thank you. The Item 3 is ordinance calendar number 5057, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 10,830 square feet from A4 to A4 in MHO, Ward 8, District 14. Mr. Smith.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 4 is ordinance calendar number 5058, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.74 acres from NC1 and HC2 to HC2, Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Gould is not here. Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 5, ordinance calendar number 5059, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 13,334.3 square feet from N4 to A4, Ward 4, District 10. Ms. O'Brien.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Groby. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 6 is ordinance calendar number 5060, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 26,083 square feet from NC2 to HC1, Ward 9, District 14. Mr. Smith.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Please vote.
Mr. Belisario? Yes. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 7 is ordinance calendar number 5061, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.41 acres from CB1 to A2, Ward 9, District 11. Mr. Stefanczyk, motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Smith. Please vote.
Mr. Belisario? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 8, ordinance calendar number 5062, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 9,474 square feet from HC2 to A5, Ward 4, District 10. Ms. O'Brien.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 9 is ordinance calendar number 5063, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 151.43 acres from HC3 to PBC-1 to HC3, PBC-1 and RBCO, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 10, ordinance calendar number 5064, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .94 acres from A4 to A3 to A4, A3 and MHO, Ward 7, District 7. Mr. Groby.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 11 is ordinance calendar number 5065, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.812 acres from A1 to NC1, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 12, ordinance calendar number 5066, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1 acre from A2 to I1, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 13 is ordinance calendar number 5067, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire property approved by the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, Ward 3, District 4. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 14, ordinance calendar number 5069, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire temporary construction servitudes for the Carriage Lane Estates Drainage Project, Ward 4, District 5. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 15, ordinance calendar number 5070, ordinance to declare multiple properties as surplus property and authorize the parish to proceed with the process for the auction of same. Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just quickly, as we go through this process, because I know a lot of them, and Richie, you'll be aware, a lot of them are down in Coin-to-List and places like that. Are we going to notify the adjacent property owners? Are we going to put up some kind of signs that that stuff is coming out? I know Gilmore Auction's handling this, right?
That is
So-
true. There'll be a public notice in general, but no.
But we're not
We
going
will-
to post each one of the properties or anything?
I will have to get back with you on that, but we will not specifically provide notice to adjacent property owners because it is going to be a public auction open
Will
to
it-
all of the public.
Will it be put on, I mean, are we going to put a place on our website that shows all these properties and, you know, I mean, that's what I was asked last night.
Yes, we can
And
show
wanna
a
make sure-
map. Yes.
Okay, I mean, they need to, well, I mean, the addresses and stuff like that, those are all going to be on our website, correct?
We can put a map on our website once
We
they're on
should,
that.
because people are interested, and I think that they're wanting to know and make sure, and I would hope that we would look at a
Yeah.
lot of those. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. This will be marketed to reach the best audience possible.
And this is early December when we're going to have the auction?
Correct, December 7th.
Thank you.
Motion was unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 16 is ordinance calendar number 5071, ordinance to amend the 2013 operating budget amendment number 7. Need a motion. Who's that, Mr. Canulet? Belisario. Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 17 is ordinance calendar number 5072, ordinance to revoke a portion of St. Benedict Street right-of-way located in St. Benedict subdivision, Covington, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Sharp. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 18, ordinance calendar number 5073, ordinance accepting the finalized subdivisions into the road and drainage inventories, specifically Montgomery Trace subdivision, Phase 2, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Dean. Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 19, ordinance calendar number 5074, ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory, wards 3, 4, 6, and 10, districts 3, 6, 7, and 11. Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 20 is ordinance calendar number 5075, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium in Highland Park subdivision, District 12. Need a motion. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Mr. Artigue? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 21 is ordinance calendar number 5076, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on Highway 1088 from Salt Street to I-12, Ward 4, Districts 5 and 7. Mr. Groby.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Number 22 is ordinance calendar number 5077, ordinance to authorize the parish president to accept the act of dedication and donation of House Beach Lane and to incorporate House Beach Lane into the parish maintenance system, Ward 9, District 13. Mr. Artigue.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Artigue, seconded by Mr. Smith. Please vote.
Mr. Dean? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 23 is ordinance calendar number 5079, ordinance to impose a 6-month moratorium within a portion of voting precinct 310, District 5. Need a motion? Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 24, ordinance calendar number 5080, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.84 acres from HC2 to I1, Ward 10, District 6. Mr. Tanner.
I believe that's in my district, but I'll move it.
Okay.
I'll second it. Yeah, it is. I'll move it.
All right.
Where are you moving it to?
Mr. Thompson said it right. You can't fault Mr. Tanner with that district size he's got. Okay, motion by Mr. Tanner. Who was the second? Mr. Ortiz. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, appointments, resolution, item 1, resolution to reappoint Otto Margot, John Lavanway, David Bates, thank you. Terms expired to St. Tammany Parish Sub-Drainage District Number 2, Meadowbrook of Gravity Drainage District Number 5. This is Mr. Gould. I think the first BOA got it. Mr. Groby, motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by, I think, Mr. Stefancic. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 2 is resolution to reappoint Jerry Lambert, term expired, and to appoint Phil Fox and Ronnie Webb of St. Tammany Parish Sub-Drainage District Number 3, North Park of Gravity Drainage District Number 5. Again, this is Mr. Gould. Motion by Mr. Stefancic, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 3 is resolution to reappoint Alicia T. Armshire, term expired to St. Tammany Parish Hospital Services District Number 2, Slaughter Memorial Hospital, Permanent Nominating Committee. Mr. Belisario.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Groby. Please vote.
Mr. Belisario? Yes. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 4 is resolution to appoint Audrey Johnson, replace Ann Creighton as the Community Service Block Grant Representative on St. Tammany Parish Community Action Agency. Belisario, O'Brien, and Ortiz.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ortiz, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Please vote.
Mr. Belisario? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 5 is resolution to appoint Kimberly Pitts, Eric Hudson, and Marvin Penton to St. Tammany Parish St. Tammany Parish Recreation District Number 2. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Mr. Smith? There it went. Mr. Tanner? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, item 6 is resolution to reappoint Steve Stefancic and Richard Kelly to the Regional Planning Commission. Motion by
Second.
motion by Mr. Tanner. Who was the second by? Whoever.
Pick a name.
Mr. Groby. Okay, just a clarification from our legal counsel. Mr. Kelly's term is up in October. Mr. Stefancic and the next one, Mr. Falconer's terms have been up. With this vote, everyone will go to the end of this term, okay? Just,
Mr. Kelly's term is for 5 years.
excuse me, Mr. Kelly goes 5 years. Mr. Stefancic. you go to the end of this term, correct?
Any council members only serve the length of their term.
Exactly. Thank you. Okay? So I had the motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 7 is resolution to reappoint Reed Falconer to the Regional Planning Commission, again through the end of this term.
moved.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Discussions and other matters. Item 1, motion to refer to zoning commission for recommendation on the proposed rezoning of a portion of property from A2 to I2, Ward 5, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 2, motion to refer to zoning commission for recommendation on the proposed rezoning of 5 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 2, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 3 is motion to refer to zoning commission for recommendation on the proposed rezoning of 2.115 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 5, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, before we go to executive session, I need a motion to open items off the floor.
So moved.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Delasario, seconded by Mr. Groby to open items off the floor. Please vote.
Mr. Thompson? Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
All right, item 1 is ordinance to amend ordinance CS number 11-2569 adopted July 7, 2011 to approve a location for 3 polling locations to include precincts C 06, 07, and 08. Mr. Dean.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Please vote. You have a question? Okay.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, Mr. Tanner?
My question is to Mr. Savant. Why is it 502 on here?
I'm sorry, why is,
We haven't changed the precinct location to 502.
I believe that they're going to be on the agenda next month, Mr. Tanner.
Thank you.
All right. Item 2 is resolution to authorize the parish president to request the Louisiana Department of Transportation to provide funds to complete the airport improvements at the St. Tammany Regional Airport. Mr. Groby. Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item 3 is motion to refer to the zoning commission for recommendation on the proposed amendment to the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code. Mr. Dean.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Please vote. Okay.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Yeah.
Did we need to introduce that ordinance for the precinct change and then suspend the rules and adopt? Okay. So we actually need to go back to ordinance number 1. We just introduced it.
Make a motion to go back to ordinance number 1.
Sorry about that.
Okay, whoa, wait.
We voted, but we shouldn't have. It should have been just an introduction.
Emergency? It's not an emergency. Because we don't have to go to the Justice Department anymore.
We only voted on the amendment.
No, we should.
Which one are you talking about? Items off the floor, number one?
Yeah, item number 1, we voted on an amendment.
No.
Yeah, that's what it says. Ordinance to amend.
If this is for the election that's coming up in October.
Are we talking about item number 1?
Okay.
It's an ordinance to amend another ordinance. What we needed to do was introduce the ordinance and then suspend the rules and adopt. I did not have that marked.
Then I would, I guess you would deem that the emergency then. Because we don't have to go to justice anymore for approval, so.
Okay, so we have an ordinance to amend another ordinance.
Right.
Okay, so all we needed was a motion and a second for introduction.
And now we need to suspend the rules and adopt.
Declare an emergency and adopt.
Yes.
All right, do you have who was the motion and the second on the introduction?
And the second was Mr. Dean and Mr. Thompson.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, if the council does suspend the rules and adopt this ordinance as an emergency ordinance, it would also need to introduce another ordinance affecting the same, because an emergency ordinance is only good for a 30-day period.
Yes.
So it's perfectly okay to do that in the interest of the general health, safety, and welfare, but I would suggest that the council consider suspending the rules and adopting this ordinance as an emergency ordinance, and then introducing another ordinance doing the same thing, but making the change permanent. So it would be effective upon suspension and adoption, but in order for it to continue beyond the 30 days, another duplicate ordinance a non-emergency ordinance would need to be introduced, and then it would come up for
But we'd
adoption
have to-
at the November meeting.
To introduce. Right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
All right, yes.
Since we're doing that, and Mr. Tanner has one
Right.
that he would want to
wanna
put
add
in
those,
there,
Richard?
why don't we amend this ordinance, since I think you're wanting to get it through at the same time, right?
Well, there are issues that haven't been resolved about whether the new proposed location is ADA compliant. Those issues have not been resolved yet, and as you know, federal law prohibits a polling location being non-ADA compliant. So until those issues are resolved, that change cannot be made.
The current location will be available?
Yes.
Okay.
And Ms. Lopez has kindly reminded me that we don't have the same rush in this matter because it wouldn't become effective until the 2014 election dates.
None of them will become effective till 2014?
The one that Mr. Tanner had referred to earlier, it wouldn't be applicable for this October or these fall election dates. They would be first utilized in the spring 2014 election dates if these issues on ADA are resolved and an ordinance is adopted by the council. So it would not be appropriate to add that change into this ordinance at this time.
And the next question is, the 30-day ordinance will expire before our next meeting?
No, next meeting is November 7th.
I mean, I just want to make sure we cover the bases. We either need to have another meeting in between then, or, I don't know what an emergency ordinance does for us tonight.
Mike, what is the election date that we're trying to
October
hit?
19th. It covers the
October
election.
19th.
It covers the election.
And then you can introduce it for the permanent. You don't need it to last the 30 days, in other words.
Yeah. You can let it go through for the October 19th, allow it to lapse, and introduce it as a permanent at the November meeting.
Mr.
I agree.
And Mr. Bender, if you want to eliminate that issue, the charter does allow the council to extend an emergency ordinance to a maximum of 60 days. So if you want to adopt that ordinance as a 60-day emergency ordinance, you can do that.
Okay, so basically, if we extended 40 days, we cover the next council meeting.
I don't have a calendar in front of me, unfortunately.
Yes.
But I
Yeah,
would
but I do.
suggest that you set it for 60 days and avoid all potential issues related to that.
Okay, so now, who,
Mr. Dean introduced, Mr. Thompson second.
Mr. Dean introduced, Mr. Thompson seconded. We took care of that. Now I need a motion on a 30-day emergency ordinance.
No, 60, he's saying
Excuse me.
60, I don't recall that
Why don't
in
we
our
just make
charter,
it 60 years?
60-day emergency ordinance, okay? Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by,
but I'll second it. But, Mike, you're certain of the 60-day ordinance? The
well,
emergency?
all we need is 40 days. We
Well, I don't-
actually only need
never remember.
34 days.
I don't recall anything over 30.
It's October 3rd to November 7th.
40 days is a very biblical number, Mr. Bender. If you would like to use 40,
I tell you what,
you would
if
have
Mr.
some
Dean
added.
hadn't left by now, you caused him to.
I was about to say.
Mr. Chair.
The biblical number.
Yeah.
We don't need to do an emergency. I mean, my God, we already passed it. It'll cover the October 19th election. Put it on next month's agenda for a permanent. I mean, God.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I don't know how
30
y'all
days.
feel, but I like Mr. Belisario's, I mean, we do a 30-day emergency ordinance.
That gets
We
us
get-
through this
It gets
election.
us past the October 19th election, and we put it back on the agenda along with Mr. Tanner's for introduction in November. We good with that, Steve?
I would.
Please say
Based
yes.
on what I'd say, and I would tell you that unless Mr. Tanner works the things out, and Mike and them work them out in that one, I would want it. I was gonna say, leave it out, leave his out.
No, we're not gonna include his in here.
Yeah, but I mean, not only in this one, but in the one we
Right, it
introduced.
depends if Mike gets it worked out.
Right,
Okay.
okay with that.
We have an emergency, we have a motion on an emergency, 30-day emergency ordinance, okay, by Mr. Canulet, seconded by Mr. Belisario, okay? Please vote on the 30-day emergency ordinance.
Mr. Thompson,
Now,
Mr. Smith, motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Okay, so now
I'll
staff.
move that we introduce the ordinance for basically final, introduce the ordinance as a regular ordinance to come up before us.
On these 3 sites
On
at
these
the
3
November
sites.
meeting.
Right.
Okay, motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Tanner, and that's all we need, okay? Okay, executive session. We would need everyone who needs to leave the room to please leave. Need a motion to go into
Move to go
executive
into
session.
executive session to discuss the
Motion.
cases on our
Yeah,
agenda.
motion to go into executive session. Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by Mr. Smith. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 4 absent.
Get him, Dave. Throw him out. Throw him out, Dave. Get him, get him. Get him, dog. Get him, dog. Taser. Oh, y'all.
on these two cases?